Hi friends, it's Kathy Mou, and welcome back to the Let's Get Candid podcast. How's everybody doing today? Happy Thursday, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever day or time it is that you're listening. So happy to be back on the mic with you guys. Happy September and happy long weekend. I hope you guys had a good one and that your short week is off to a good start, or I guess already almost over at this point. As you're listening to this, I will be in Toronto. I fly out right after I'm recording this episode for you guys, and I've actually yet to pack, so wish me luck. I'm going to be exploring Canada, which I've never been to Canada before. We're doing Toronto and Niagara Falls, so I'm really looking forward to it, and there's just so much to catch you up on. I don't even know where to begin. If you've been following me on Instagram for a while, you might know that I've been pretty active on Threads lately, and I'm really enjoying it. Make sure to follow me on there and follow my law firm on there as well, Kathy Mou Law. I've been posting a lot of good commentary on trademark things that are going on and seeing service providers and other people talk about their industry and what's happening there, content creators talking about brands not paying them, etc., brands stealing their content for usage, and just a lot of information on there is so great to help me figure out what to make content about for you guys. And it's been a great marketing tool to get clients and potential clients, lots of consultations from there. And I like seeing what people are talking about and thinking about. I like sharing my thoughts and starting conversations. I've met some really cool people through Threads, and there can be a dark side to it for sure, but I don't know, so far I've been really enjoying it. I went to get my hair done this morning, and while I was sitting in the chair, I was on Threads just talking about a lot of trademark things that I've been seeing this week. Now Dancing with the Stars, that's how I learned who the cast members are, and it's like Reddit and Twitter combined. That's and TikTok combined, but in written form, which I personally just like written form content better. So yeah, that's been really fun. I also got my nails done for fall. When I have my nails done and a fresh blow up, it means we're going on a trip. I got OPI's CIA, and funny story about this nail color is I get this color almost every year, but there's just so many synchronicities in my life that when I picked the color based off the number, I was like, okay, that looks like what I want. I went to the mall on Monday night, and this color was everywhere. It's like a really dark teal. It was everywhere at the mall. So I was like, okay, this is a fall color. Well, we'll go with this. September's here. I want to change it up a little bit. And then I look at the bottom of the dip powder container, and it's CIA color is awesome. And I was like, that's just funny. Like, I always pick this color, and it has a funny meaning to people in my life, like me and the people who know. So I don't know, that was just really funny to me. And while I was at the nail salon, I ran into one of my clients, and it's just, Miami's just such a small world, and social media just makes it so much more accessible to connect with people. Like, she's a family friend of mine, but became my client because she saw me on social media and at events. And it's just funny to see how the world has evolved, and platforms like Threads and TikTok even just bring us all together. And that's how I've been able to grow my firm, which is really exciting. My firm actually, I launched it in January, but in September is when I went full-time on my own last year. So this year is the 1-year anniversary of being full-time self-employed, no additional income coming in from a law firm behind the scenes. So that was really crazy, because right as I'm celebrating that, my estimated quarterly taxes for Q3 are due. So that one hurt a little bit, and I made a thread about that, and so many people came to be like, you don't have to pay that, you can just take the penalty, or you don't have to pay the full amount as estimated, that you can pay whatever you have. And I'm like, yeah, I know all these things. It doesn't mean it doesn't hurt. It doesn't mean that I didn't plan for it. It can still hurt even if I planned for it. It's not fun to see that much money leave your account, but you have to do it as a business owner. And so that's one of the downsides of Threads, is that people will come out of the woodwork and, attack you or say random things. But it's been also really nice for connectivity and learning that I can have a business high yield savings account separate from my personal high yield savings account. That was something I learned today. So, just learning so much from social media and content, and of course building my business on it, has been really, really incredible. And I wouldn't be where I am today if it wasn't for sharing my life on the internet and starting this podcast 3 years ago. September 16th will be 3 years, which is absolutely insane. And, I've had my hiatuses, I've had my time off from here, but the platform that I have built, the community that I have built through this podcast and networking with people to have them on the podcast or meeting in real life afterwards, from LinkedIn, from social media, I have really been able to cultivate the life that I want for myself, and it means the world that I get to inspire others to do the same. And I've actually had a lot of people reach out to me lately on what my day-to-day looks like, what the behind the scenes looks like, how I really do it all, what I actually do all day. And I created a couple of pieces of content around that. And I just have so many ideas. I actually started reading Excessively Obsessed by Natasha Oakley. She's the co-founder of Monday Swimwear, Natasha Oakley and Devin Brugman. And her book is, I'm not a business book person, but her book genuinely really goes into the nitty gritty of what it's like to be a female entrepreneur in the creator economy and in the influencer marketing industry, and what it's like to build a business. Obviously, I'm a service-based business. Monday Swimwear is a goods-based business. So there are distinctions, but she talks about them, like the pros and cons of each, and what it's really like building a business using social media and not taking investments. Obviously, I could at some point in the future, but like I don't want to. And especially as a law firm, like I don't want to have partners and have people take my income or my business. Like I want it to be personal to me. That's my whole approach. It's my whole niche. And so it's been a really insightful read. I'm going to take it with me on my trip, my plane read. And we have some road trips to Niagara Falls as well. So definitely will be reading that throughout the weekend. And I'm really looking forward to learning more about their story and how, specifically Natasha though, how they built it and how she built it. And she built Pilates class and other businesses that she has. And it just, I feel like I'm rambling, but there's been so much in my brain the last few days from that book, from things I've seen on social media, just my own personal life, learning a lot about myself and how important relationship building really is, and that relationships, you outgrow them, friendships, professionally, your relationship with past versions of you, and forgiving yourself. And it's been an interesting journey the last few months, this summer specifically. And as we enter September, it always is a little bit bittersweet because summer is ending, but it also means a rebirth, like we talked about, back to school. It's a new season, new fresh clothing, new opportunities, but it's also a new beginning. A lot of people count this as the beginning of the year, the Jewish New Year and other holidays like that. But just, I don't know, something about this particular September just really, it feels different. And I can't tell if it's a good or a bad different yet. I know work is picking up, opportunities are coming. I feel things happening for me, but it feels kind of like I'm letting a piece of my old self go. And I've been really struggling with just these changes and like imposter syndrome of like past versions of me. And, shedding dead skin, old weight, old beliefs, old mentors, old relationships, and not letting that energy affect me and what I'm building now. And I've had some really insightful conversations with people recently about how I can use my story to fuel my content and my mission, and sharing more of my mission and really getting into the nitty gritty. And I've been in this season of, I don't really want to share content. I don't know what to talk about on the internet. But then people do want to see that side of me. So it's like balancing that with a business that is growing, is picking up, and lots of travel, lots of things happening in my personal life. I feel like I'm in like this weird transition period, and that's what September is. It's the transition between summer and fall. So I don't know, but I am looking forward to a weekend away and just getting a breather. My mom really just wanted to book this trip because she's like, we didn't go anywhere this summer. We need to do a trip. And I was like, okay, I'm not going to complain. Like, fun, let's go. But it actually came at a really good time for me. And next week, I'm treating myself to a staycation. Just going to Marco Island for the week myself and decompressing. I'll be working, but I just really needed a breather and some time away from constant events and things going on and getting dressed up and doing this and being seen and being here and there. It's just, summer can be a little bit overwhelming sometimes with events and travel. I'm going to be traveling a lot the rest of this year and this fall particularly, but I am looking forward to what is to come and of course continue sharing it with you guys. But I feel like I just needed to give you guys kind of a life update of like where I'm at, because I'll do a proper like true solo life update episode later on at the end of season 2. But so much has changed in the last 6 months. I've been talking about that. It's kind of been a recurring theme for the last few episodes. But I feel like it's all hitting its crescendo, like something big is happening. And if you're an astrology person like me, if I go on CoStar, it's literally saying that something big is coming, and I just have to be patient and look out for it, and that I'm truly being tested right now. Things are happening in my life to teach me patience and to teach me faith and to trust the process. And something that has been really important to me lately is, I always joke and say that I'm just a 26-year-old figuring it all out, but this need to have it all figured out is a lot of pressure. You feel so much pressure, at least I do, in my 20s, to have it all figured out, to know what's going to happen next. I have this need to control things and know what's going to happen and, make sure A, B, C, and X, Y, Z is in order, or I feel chaotic. I feel like I'm struggling. And the more pressure I put on myself to have things happen a certain way or at a certain time, the harder it is to keep going when that doesn't happen. And it's inevitable that it won't happen the way that you want it to. Life doesn't work like that. And so I've been really working on letting go and trusting the process and having faith that it's all going to work out the way that it's meant to. And that's something that I've been saying for years, but truly practicing that is a whole different story. And I've been listening to a lot of Peyton Sarin's podcast, Note to Self, lately, and she talks a lot about how her 30s has been really good for her so far. She just turned 30 because she learned to just enjoy the process, and that, feminine energy is enjoying the process and masculine energy is needing to have a plan. And I've been working on feminine energy and leaning more into it for a long time now. I have an episode coming up soon about that. But yeah, I feel like I'm in a season where I'm being tested. And I think that's that crescendo that I'm feeling, is just knowing that my time is coming, opportunities are coming my way, the things that I've been working for and praying for and manifesting for a really long time, they're coming, they're closer than I think. I just have to have faith and trust that, it's all going to work out and I'm doing okay. And, it doesn't look the way I thought it was going to look. It doesn't look the way other people's life looks, but it looks better than what I could have dreamed of, because I created it for myself. It's not a dream, it's reality. It's my reality. And I don't know why I'm getting so emotional about this, but yeah, it definitely lately has been a lot to process, a lot to think about, and that mindset work and that balance between being optimistic and being realistic and, being a planner and being a business owner and having to plan for things and having to have a strategy for things and just enjoying things as they come and, planning for the rainy days, saving for the rainy days, but just going along with the ride and going with the flow, because everything happens for a reason, and the way that it works out is the way that it was meant to, even if it doesn't look or feel or seem that way in the moment. It's all leading to what is meant to happen, right? So that's kind of where I've been at lately. And with that, I will switch gears to introduce this week's guest. And it is something that I have touched on briefly in previous episodes when talking about my health journey, but it's something that I've always wanted to talk about. So when Kathy reached out to me to talk about endometriosis and what it is like to struggle with really debilitating periods and how it affects your mental health, and finding out that actually there is something wrong and there is something she can do for it, and how that has affected her relationships, her career, her life later on down the line, and now having a child, fertility. That's a conversation that I've been wanting to have for a really long time, but because I'm younger and I'm not at that point in my life, and I don't have friends that are at that point in my life, I didn't quite know who I was going to get to talk about that, but I'm so glad she reached out. So I want to introduce to you Kathy Mou. She is a endometriosis warrior, and she talks about her experience of having endometriosis and empowering women who have endometriosis to get the support they need to handle something like this, and how it affects you in every way, shape, or form. And we have a really insightful conversation on this. We talk about the signs and, what are the procedures out there, and what can you do, and how to find a doctor who can really help you navigate this, because not every doctor can do this or is informed on these procedures. There's a lot of women out there who get misdiagnosed or don't get diagnosed at all because doctors don't know what to look for. So, that's really important to me too, is finding the right doctor, the right procedures and providers for you. And I have friends who are struggling with fibroids and other things. And as I get to the age where I am starting to think about a family and fertility and, making sure I'm healthy and getting checked up and making sure everything is, going well internally, it's something that I do think about a lot more. So, if you are younger than like 26, like my age, this might not be something that's super important to you, but I definitely think that is something that we need to be talking more about. And I'm really grateful that I have the opportunity to do so. So if you like this episode, please leave a rating and review. Please subscribe to the show, share with a friend, tag us as you're listening. Let me know who you want to see next, what topics you want me to cover next. And I hope that you enjoy this episode. I do want to give a quick PSA that her daughter was in the background at one point watching TV and squealing and like making a little bit of noise, and I wasn't able to get it all fully out of the episode. So do keep that in mind if you're listening with headphones. But I do hope you enjoy this episode, and I will see you guys next week. Meet Kathy. So Kathy, what's something that people wouldn't know about you just from following you?
Ooh, I guess people wouldn't know that I'm very spiritual and I love Harry Potter. And no, you could probably know that. And I'm a twin, so I don't know. I don't post that I'm a twin really on my socials.
Twins are so fascinating to me. One day, like I remember as a kid, I would always say like I wish I was a twin, and I would love to like have twins one day and just be like one and done. Like both my kids in one go.
That would be so fun.
Which leads me to
growing up as today. A twin, it's different though. It's not like what you would. We fought a lot. It's like, we're in like a competitive mindset when we're younger, but now like we're so close. Like now we're like, well, we can never live without each other. So it's cool.
Yeah, it's like you have like a built-in best friend, but of course as siblings, you're always gonna fight and have that competitive side. Speaking of, like, actually this brings up a really good point, like with like the twin thing and like talking about infertility, IVF, endometriosis, like, a lot of times people nowadays are like, oh, cool, I'm going to do IVF so I can get twins. Like I can, like, you can select that. You can, that's an option, or that's always, I guess, a higher possibility probably. Yeah. Was that ever something that you thought of? And also too, like your twins' potential fertility journey, you could be so different from your own. Like, is that something that you guys like have talked about a lot?
Yeah, so my journey actually was so different than hers. And both my sisters actually tried once and got their child. And then I was the only one in my family to go actually through IVF. And I was excited. I was like, dude, if I go through IVF, is a higher chance of having twins. And I would be happy with that because I love being a twin. And I would, but my husband was like, man, that's going to be crazy. Like taking care of you at one time. Like he was stressed. He's like, hopefully not. Yeah. But I went through IVF, and a lot of people with endometriosis actually go through IVF and then they find out that they're infertile because they have endometriosis. And that was what happened to me. Because once I got off my birth control, then I was like getting all the endometriosis symptoms that I had in my teenage years. But during those times, people were like, okay, it's just a period problem. Like, just suck it up pretty much, and there's nothing else. Like birth control was the only way to kind of help with the symptoms. But really, it just, I mean, I guess it did for a decade, but I was so disconnected after I got off of birth control. I got so much like crazy period pain. I had heavy flow again. I had endo flares all the time. I couldn't even function and live. It was really sad. And so going through all of that and then having to do IVF with a laparoscopy all within like the same year was so intense. But honestly, whoever goes through IVF is such a warrior, because that is one of the most stressful things that you can never go if you do it with a partner too. Because some people do it with themselves too, you know, like they want to be a parent on their own, which is cool. It's a very stressful process.
I know. It's funny, like mentioning doing it on your own. That's something I've always like, my parents and I have this conversation a lot. Like as I'm turning 27 at the end of this year. And I always said I wasn't going to date or have a family until my career was established. And now that I'm getting to that point where like my career is like going well, I'm like, all right, I'm open to dating. I'm ready for that next chapter. I'm not going to marry the first person that comes around, but like I'm in that point where I feel like that's the natural next step. Like now that the career we're good. And so with that, I've said to my parents a couple of times, like, if I'm still single by the end of 28 going on 29, I'm going to go and freeze my legs. And if by 30, I see that I'm still single, like that's not going to stop me from having a kid. And I want to be a younger mom. So my mom had me at 26 and my brother at 29. So meaning my brother turns 23 next week. And my parents are both in their mid 50s and they're young and hip and they're thriving. Like they get their lives back. And that's my goal. Is I don't want to wait until I'm so much older that I then can't enjoy my life when my kids are already like building like on their own. And I want to be a young enough grandma to be able to be around when, my grandkids and like run around and play with them. Like my grandma's 72 and now, like right now, I'm 26. My grandma's 72. She's very young. We travel together. We have so much fun together. And like, I want that. And my mom will be that for my kids. And so like, I'll probably at 30, 31, like go and do it on my own. But I recognize that that is just a lot of strain on the body mentally. I could not imagine going through that alone, but even more so going through it with a partner, just like the emotional toll it takes on your relationship. And I want to touch on that, but I want to go back to something that you said. You got on birth control as a teenager, and it's most of us do, I think. And that's usually like you go to the doctor, like, okay, like I have really bad periods, something's wrong. And they're like, just take birth control. That's like the quick, easy fix. And they don't really ever take a second to look at what's really going on. Now it's endometriosis. But at the time, like, what were those symptoms that you were like, something is seriously not right here? How did you first start realizing something was wrong?
So when I got off of birth control, when my periods was like so long and I kept getting spotting too. And I was like, this is not right. And regular periods should not be painful. First of all, it should not be heavy flows, a lot of like blood clots. And it should be like around 5 days, but I was getting like 7 to 10 days, including like spotting all the time. And I was like, this is not right. So I already knew my gut feeling something was off, but then my symptoms started getting worse and worse. So I got like an endo flare during Thanksgiving, I believe 2020. And that was like the initial process of me finally going to get checked up and like to take my health seriously. Because before that, I was like, I'm super healthy. Like I'm eating correctly. I'm working out. Like everything's fine. Obviously it wasn't. And so I went to the ER and I got checked up and they were like, oh, you have ovarian cysts. And so I was tracking them with my OBGYN to later find out from an ultrasound technician telling me that that was actually a endometrioma formed from endometriosis. So that's how I got my diagnosis from endometriosis. But yeah, I was having heavy, like painful periods again. Endo flares, I don't know if people have ever heard of it, but it's like literally it feels like your insides, like your lower abdomen inside is like on fire, like burning, and you just want to crunch up in bed or on the floor and you like throw up you're crying in so much agony and pain. And we call it endo flare because literally it's like a inflammation in your body and it just doesn't know how to get rid of it. So like the cells are trying to like, make the endometriosis go away. So these cells like grow throughout your body and it causes a lot of pain. So if you're having like crazy period pain, it could most likely be endometriosis.
Yeah, I've heard the statistic. It's like really common nowadays, which is scary that also the only way to test for it is a surgery. So that's kind of nice that an x-ray tech or an ultrasound tech was the one that was like, I think you have something. But like you said, like when you got off birth control, you started having heavy periods again. What were your periods originally like as a teenager? Like when did you get your period and like how were they then? Because for me, I remember I was 12 and I had like 8-day periods. And I know now that that's not normal, but my mom was like, to me, that's normal. That's what I had. So like, we didn't know any better. And I've always had really bad cramps and back pain and nausea and blood pressure dropping and all this stuff. And I was also anemic. Like I've always had these issues. And then, birth control for 8 years. And now I'm like, I think I told you this, like when we first spoke, I'm on my period right now. So not this one. Like last month or the month before, I full on passed out on the bathroom floor. And thankfully my mom was home because right now nobody's home. But my mom was home and she I yelled out her name and she brought me an ice pack, and helped me get to the couch. And I would be late to school some days because I wouldn't be able to get up. And so what was it like initially then? Like, was it as bad as it was when you first got off birth control now as an adult? Or what was the initial, your period as a teenager?
Yeah. So as a teenager, I got my period around 12 to 13. And I already initially had heavy flows. And again, my mom had heavy flows and my grandma. So we just thought it was normal. Yeah. They're just like, but I would go through literally a thick pad. I would have to wear a thick, long pad and tampons too. And it would soak up every class period. And the worst part about it is during that back then, I wasn't super educated. So I would leak on the chairs and stuff. And it's just so embarrassing when you're in middle school, especially. And I'm like, oh my God, how do I deal with this? But in my 20s, I think later in my teens, actually 18, 19, that was when I started getting endo flares, where my stomach was on fire. I was in so much pain. And I just thought it was normal because everybody was like, it's just period pain. But it progressively got worse and worse. And I think that's where my, endometriosis was growing inside slowly. So then it reacted as I got older. And then finally, when I took birth control in my 20s, that was when my periods were much less. It was 5 days instead of 7 to 10 days again, very long periods, heavy flows for 5 days straight. That's insane. That's not normal. With huge, crazy blood clots. And so finally, taking birth control, I had just the 5 days, very light, maybe 3 days heavy flow. And then it lightens up and then it's gone. So I was like, that's how your periods should be normally. So then right when I got off of birth control, I think I was okay for 3-4 months. I started getting spotting and then it just got worse and worse to the status of where I finally had to get a laparoscopy to get the endometriomas out of me and the endometriosis to actually feel normal again.
Yeah. I remember it's what you said about middle school and the leaking and stuff. I remember how I discovered I got my period. This day will never, it was April. I want to say it was April 7th or April 12th. I literally could tell you the day, I was in 7th grade. I was 12. So this was 2010. Yeah. 2010. We were in the locker room and I was a dancer and I had pink tights on. Of course, I'm the one day that I wear pink tights. I normally would wear black tights. I pull down my tights. I take my lace off, I pull down my tights, and I was one of the first ones to get mine. And I looked down and I was like, okay, I need what do I do? It's red. And everyone was like, oh, you got your period. And I was like, does anyone have a pad? Does anyone have a pad? Does anyone have a pad? And they're like, no, sorry, I don't have anything. So I went to my dance teacher. I put my tights back on, put my lace back on. I went to my dance teacher and I was like, hey, I had to run to class. So, like, I need a pad. She goes, I don't have any pads. All I have left is tampons. Have you ever used one? I was like, no, this is my first one. And she called my mom and was like, can I help Kayla put in a tampon? Like, I'm going to teach her. And my mom was like, yeah, just do it. So my dance teacher helped me put a tampon in for the first time. And I'll never forget, like, I was so embarrassed. Like, luckily, like, I was in dance clothes, so I still could put my clothes back on, like, my jeans on, and I was, like, not staying there. But I remember having to carry those home, like, and I just felt so gross. And I still, to this day, I still leak so bad sometimes, and I'll stain, like, my sheets. I remember, oh my God, this is so embarrassing. I was in Ecuador last year, and I stained myself, like, it was such a long car ride, and there was nowhere to stop. So I felt bad because I stained the taxi. And I was like, Mom, do you have wipies? Like, I was like scrubbing the taxi. Like, it still happens to be now at 26. But I remember when I first started going to the gynecologist, like 16, 17. And because my mom was like, okay, you're sexually active. Like, you're going to the gynecologist. Like, and I appreciate her for that so much. And that's like when I got on birth control. But I remember we did the ultrasound one time because I guess I had said like my stomach hurt or something, and I had cysts. And I remember him saying back then, like, you don't have PCOS, but you have less eggs than you should at your age. And I was like, interesting. And I have really bad periods. So that's always been in my head that like something isn't 100% right. Did you ever have cysts or anything as a teenager, or did you not discover that until you were in your 20s?
Yeah, I didn't even discover that until actually in my 30s. So in my 20s, I was on birth control. I didn't know for a whole decade about my health because I thought I was healthy. You know, I was like, oh, I'm doing the right thing. I'm eating healthy, whatever. So I didn't take my health seriously until my 30s was when I found out that I had cysts. So in my family, we weren't really into like going to the doctors, and we always did things more holistically.
Same.
And that's what I want people to know, that if you do feel differently or something's wrong with your body, go to the doctors, go check it out. Like, you know, don't wait for your parents to tell you or do something about it. But back then my parents were really busy. They had like a fast food restaurant. So all they focused on was work, and I get it. So they didn't really have time to like really focus on our health, etc. So we kind of had to take it on our own hands. And for me, I was like, I'm not going to do anything.
Yeah.
Because I thought it was normal. Yeah.
I remember we're very much the same way. Like, unless we were like dying or bleeding out, we didn't go to the doctor, but we would go to the doctor annually. Like, we would go to our primary care. And for me, once I was like of age, I was going to the gynecologist. And like, so I would go to the doctors twice a year, and that was it. Like, I literally would have to be dying to go to the doctor at any other point in time. If I had a headache, if something hurt, just take a tea. Like, we're very holistic also. My grandma's Cuban, and she's just like, drink a manzanilla, chamomile, or eat this fruit, or do this. And I remember period cramps, the thing that she always would tell me is cinnamon tea. So I would boil a cinnamon stick in water, like make myself a cinnamon tea, and then add a little bit of honey and drink that. And it helps relieve the pressure. It thins out your blood is what it is. So it makes the flow heavier, but it releases the pressure. And so like in high school and in college, that's always what I would do. And then I've developed a cinnamon allergy. So like that's really unfortunate, but like I'll still eat it. It gives me just rosacea, but I'm like, if I'm in really bad pain, I don't want to take Advil because I try not to take like prescription anything or even like over the counter anything. I'll still drink my cinnamon tea, and that really helps with the pressure in my stomach, like the cramps and the pain and stuff, the heating pad, all of that. So I definitely get the holistic thing, but yeah, absolutely. Like I think holistic is great, and I think there's a really big emphasis right now with social media on, you know, your wellness era and being really holistic, but also it's important to be intuitive and in touch with your body and know like, okay, holistic remedies aren't going to help here. Like, it's okay to need Western medicine. It's okay. It's not okay to take pills for everything because it just creates more problems and more side effects later. But there comes a time where you need that. And going to the doctor every year, too many girls I feel like are afraid to go to the gynecologist too. Mm-hmm. Like, I know so many people my age that they're like, yeah, I don't go to the gynecologist. Like, I've never gone to the gynecologist. I'm like, girl, I found out I had HPV because I got a pap smear. Like, how do you not do this?
Yeah.
That's wild to me.
It's because I feel like we're not educated, or women is not educated in our health and our body, which is so sad. And this is why I try to promote my story as much as possible, because remember I told you in my teenage years, my education for health was, hey, if you're going to have sex, you're just going to have a baby right away. Literally, that's all they taught us.
Sex
and then they're
ed.
like, right, sex ed. And that was just that. And then they're like, and women, you're going to have periods once a month. That's it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, that was the education. And literally, that's how naive I was. I really thought, like, I was like, oh, I'm going to get married and have kids like this, you know? And like, definitely that is absolutely wrong. And so many women think this because this is what we're taught as a young kid in our teenage years, which is really sad. And no one takes our health seriously. So this is why I try to empower women to like go get checked up, like take action with your doctors, or if something's wrong, like go figure it out, like empower yourself to actually go and figure it out. And no one's going to do it for you, unfortunately, especially not the healthcare system. Like it's much different than it was back then as well, I feel.
Yeah, I think it's gotten a lot better, but there's still, you have to advocate for yourself at the end of the day, which is why I wanted to have you on, because you do so much advocacy and empowerment. But I want to know how you got, like, where did your self-empowerment journey with this all begin? So how long were you on birth control and getting off of it? And what was how long, you said like about 4 months, you started feeling all these things, you went to the ER, you got diagnosed, and then everything kind of happened quickly after that. What was that timeline like of getting diagnosed, going, to your husband, being like, all right, I need to have this procedure, and like now your IVF journey, and all along the way empowering yourself? Like, where did you go for that?
Oh, that's a good question. Thank you. So let me tell you the whole timeline. So 2019, I got married, and then I got off of birth control. That was like June 2019. And so I had to, in America, for some reason, you have to wait a whole year to try every month with your husband. And if you get a full year with no results, then that's like officially you're infertile. So then that's when I was able to finally book calls with specialists specialists. And so a whole year or 2 years, I was trying with my husband every day. And that was just so stressful. Like when you're infertile and you want a result, people with infertility would for me, I would take pregnancy tests once a month, every month, only to get like negative test results. And that led me down a very, very depressed route because I was not empowering myself. I just wanted these results magically, thinking that I'm just going to magically make a baby.
And how old are you at this point? How long had you been on birth control?
31, I think.
Okay.
31. Yeah. And so this was a 31. And then 2020 was when I finally had that endo flare. And that was what catapulted me into wanting to empower myself. So in 2021, January, I was like, okay, because during that time it was COVID, it was hard to get appointments with doctors anyway. So I had to wait for the new year. They were backed up because doctors' offices were closed. So then I had to wait. So it was Thanksgiving. I went to the ER. They're like, go check in with your OBGYN. It's just ovarian cyst. It's nothing, whatever. So then I had to wait at least January 2021 to even go see an OBGYN. So I had those couple of months to just start researching again. And I was like, okay, dude, I have endometriosis. I know this. I just know it. So when I went to see the doctor in January, finally, OBGYN, I was like, hey, I think I have endometriosis. And she goes, nope, you don't have endo. You just had a bad period episode. And I was like, what? So I was gaslit, right? And a lot of us who have endometriosis get gaslit throughout our whole lives. So I knew she was wrong in that sense, because in my gut feeling, I did a lot of research and I've had all these symptoms before. And I was like, there's absolutely wrong. But anyways, she had me go see an ultrasound technician every month to track the ovarian cyst to see if it was growing. Yes, it was growing exponentially every freaking like 2 to 3 weeks. It was growing like crazy. I think it was like 1 centimeter. And then to the very end, finally, when I got my laparoscopy in August 2021, or was it, no, June or July, it was at 6 centimeters. So it was like about, I had two growing on each side of my ovary, and they had to remove that. Yes. So it like was so fast. 2021 was like such a blur, but it was like me empowering myself the whole year because I was so sick of like crying and doing nothing since 2019 to 2020. Honestly, I was like so sick of it, and it was just not who I was. So in 2021, I even booked like I saw an IVF doctor specialist. I even got acupuncture. I started going on a bean protocol. Like I changed my whole life to make sure that I can say, if I wanted to have a kid, I could say I tried everything in my power.
Yeah.
And that's what helped me to empower myself and to finally get the results that I wanted in the end, which I do have a daughter now. If you guys don't know that, but it was so fast because endometriosis grows really fast, by the way. It's due to like, you know, all the outside things that you do, how much toxins you're exposed to on a daily. It's just so many factors. And so for me, I was so stressed out too at the time. I was in a very bad work environment as well that caused me a lot of stress. So my endo was growing at an exponential rate. So I had to do all these things like every day or every week. I was at the doctor's office pretty much. It was that intense. And I was in and out. And so I did all of this all together. I mean, it was a lot, to be honest. My husband was like, you're doing way too much. Like, chill out, girl. I was like, no, I'm going to try everything, okay? But he was supportive at the end. And so the IVF doctor actually recommended me to my endo surgeon specialist. So I got lucky in a sense where he was like, oh, she's really good. I've talked to her because a lot of his clientele had endometriosis, right? Because of infertility. And so I was lucky again in that sense where my IVF doctor knew about endometriosis and he knew a doctor. So it like all connected for me. So I didn't have to go out of my way to get an appointment with her, but it worked out in that sense. So it was so fast. So let's see. If you don't know, endometriosis surgeons are so busy. So 1 in 10 women have this, right? And there's only like around 200 to 300 specialists all around the world. Think about how busy they are. I know, isn't that crazy? That's not even enough. Think about it. And endometriosis can come back again. So her schedule was packed, like somehow magically she squeezed me in before a surgery session, like at 7 a.m. She just like called me and was like, I heard you're in so much pain. Like I heard this doctor told me to call you. And so I was like, oh my God, yes, thank you. And this time we had that consultation later on. She was able to squeeze me in June for the surgery, but it was originally going to be like in September or something later in 2021. And I was already in so much pain because since the endo flare, every day after that, my periods got worse and I was getting endo flares like literally every night. Like I was in so much pain and my ovarian cysts kept growing faster, you know? And that was so stressful because I didn't know what I could do. And I was like, I'm trying to eat healthier. I'm trying to do all these things, acupuncture, etc. But to be honest, all of that helped me in the end to get the results that I wanted for my baby girl. And so I had my laparoscopy in June or July, I think July actually. And then I did IVF a couple months because I needed time to actually like recover from my laparoscopy. Yeah. And that happened in September. So IVF took a whole month to do. And October finally, we went through the whole month process of like injecting yourself with all the...
That scares me. The needle part injecting, like, I don't know if I could do that.
Yeah, have somebody else do it. Okay, my husband had to do it for me. And a tip is to actually ice the area before you like inject it. And I did not. Every time I would just inject it, and it would hurt so bad. I would like scream at a pillow, like, because you could like feel it. Like you could feel.
Yeah. It's it's not so much the needle. It's like, at least like for me, like I can feel the liquid, and I'm like, that's the part that freaks me out. So like the icing is a good tip. And I definitely want to talk about him and like the support, because definitely going through all of that alone could not be easy. So I'm glad that you had him as your support system. But it's just incredible to me, like you said, like so many people's infertility is caused by endometriosis and they don't know that they have it. And I think you, like you said, like you got really lucky that your doctor knew about it and like knew the surgeon that was able to get you in, and that because you're based in the Bay Area, it's a lot more accessible to you, I think, too, than other cities and other towns and stuff. But with like the cyst, like I remember the one bad cyst that I had, it ruptured on its own. And when I was like 17 or 18, and I remember that feeling like, and my cousins have PCOS, and like, so this has been something that we've all talked about, and just like, I cannot imagine you just saying like, I'm in pain, like this is happening, and nobody being able to help you. So you, like the fact that you had surgeons or the x-ray tech, the ultrasound, like them being the ones to give you those resources. And like you said, like empowering yourself, doing everything you could holistically, acupressure, acupuncture, all these things, and being like, if I don't want to say that I didn't give it my best shot. And we talked about this, like for me around this time, I was also going through my health journey with HPV and my gynecologist. And I was really lucky that they were open to me advocating for myself. And I was like, I read this, I learned this, I did this. Like, what about, and like, I remember same thing. I'm like, I'm eating right. I'm eating clean. I'm working out. I'm doing all the things. Like, it's not getting any better. Like, it won't go away. And then I remember I was like, can I get off birth control? Like, I'm not doing anything. I'm not sexually active right now. Like, why am I taking this? I'm giving myself more hormones right now than I need. Let me just hear me out. Let me go off birth control. And that helped clear it up significantly, 2021, 2022. So it was very similar timelines. And having that support system was absolutely crucial. I was single. My support system was my friends and my family. But I remember my parents being like, your mom went through this, your grandma went through this, like everybody goes through this. HPV is super common, like it's not that big a deal. But having, like, I remember one of my guy friends in law school, like he was my accountability buddy. I was like, all right, I went for a walk today. Okay, I went to the gym today. Okay, I ate healthy today. And he was like, how are you doing? How are you feeling? Like, do you want to, like, they just checking in on my mental health, making sure that I was okay, because I was super depressed. And like, I was in law school, I was also really stressed out. And you mentioned like your work situation was like really stressful at the time. Like, I would not have been able to do it if it wasn't for me empowering myself and having those resources and having a support system and sitting them down and making them understand. But I like that your husband was, you know, he was there along for the ride. He was really supportive of you. What are some things that he did that made this whole like 2021 easier for you?
Wow. He actually was so sweet, and his nurturing side came about. Like, he usually is not nurturing every day. But when I was really sick, he would like try to make sure I would take my medication. So I was in so much pain. And you know me, I hate taking pills, but I had to take painkillers. It was that bad. And I would actually wait until I had an endo flare to take the pill. And then
that's how I was.
Yeah, see, and he's like, "Why would you do something like that?" No, like just
my mom says the same thing. I was prescribed naproxen, which is like a prescription strength Advil and like blood thinner, because my periods were so bad. And my mom was like, "Why do you wait until you're literally unable to move to take it?" And I was like, "Because I don't want to take painkillers. Like, I want to be able to do it on my own. I want to be tough. Like, I can do this."
Yes. But
no, you literally sometimes you just can't. So I get it.
Yeah, so he would like look every 6 hours, like, take it now so you don't have to have these episodes. I'm like, no, we're always arguing over that. But yeah, I should listen. But every night I was not able to sleep, and he would be there to support me, and he had work too, and he wouldn't be able to sleep because I was in so much pain waiting for like the painkiller to like actually kick in so then I could sleep like at least a couple of hours. That's how painful it was for me. And during this time as COVID, he was not able to like be in any of the operation rooms with me. He couldn't go to the doctor's appointments. He tried to like just be in the car and take me to all these appointments, which was so nice. Like, even though he was sitting in the car, I would try to FaceTime to see if like he can just be there and listen at least, or do phone calls. And just that support was very nice to have. So he would take me to all these appointments. And I told you, it was like in and out of like the hospital or the doctor's office at least like a couple times a week. And he was just so supportive the whole time. And during the IVF process, it's so stressful. I had him, the first shot was the worst, honestly, because we didn't know what to expect. And so we got in a huge argument before he would like do the shot, because he didn't want to do it for me because he hates all of the like having blood and
I don't like
doing
that
stuff. He was freaked out. He's like, oh my God, I don't want to do it for you. And you already have a lot of pressure during IVF because it's kind of very mathematical and you want everything to go perfectly, but honestly, you can't. Because right, one little mishap, you think you're losing your chances of trying to have a baby. And mind you, IVF is so expensive. So it's like you have to do it at the right time, and then you have to have the temperature, like the fluid or whatever you're injecting into you. The medication has to be a right temperature, or else it's not correct. So he just already had so much pressure, and I was like, just do it already. He's like, no, I can't. So we were arguing, and I was like, dude, this is the least you could do for me. Like, honestly. We had a big old fight, but he ended up doing it for me in the end. Because I was like, I can't do the first shot for me. Because I was like, I've been through so much crap the whole year. Like, I just need you to do this one shot. Like, just do it. And so he did finally man up and do it for me. But we had to get through the ass argument, which was ridiculous. Literally, I was like, don't touch me unless you calm down. Like, I don't want you to touch me. And so... But we did calm down and we got through it. I think, honestly, our IVF process and like me getting sick brought us closer together. And I thought...
I was going to say, I would imagine that you really rough it out, like mentally, emotionally. And I wanted to ask too, like you guys both had to go through this whole year and then showing up to work and trying to be on your game for your teams and in the office, and then come home and you're going through all of this, like, at the end of the day, the only person who understands what you're going through is that other person, because they're seeing you in and day out go through this. I would imagine it brings you closer together.
Yeah, it actually brought us closer together, which was a good thing, because it could break couples as well. It's just, however, it tests us for sure. It tested us mentally, physically, emotionally, everything. And for once, I felt like he had my back and that he really wanted the best outcome for me. And we talked about what happens if we never had a kid, and he was okay with it. He's like, honestly, I just wanted to be together, and if we don't have a kid, then so be it. But me, I was like, no, I gave myself a lot of pressure. Like, no, I want to give you a child. Like, I want to bear a child for you. And I just, like when you have that mentality, it's just very disastrous, honestly. It gives you more depression because you're putting so much pressure on yourself. But he never gave me that pressure. I gave my own pressure.
That's good.
To myself, because I thought something was wrong with me, right? Our society makes us believe like, oh, if you can't bear a child, there's something wrong with you,
Yeah, that's something I've really been working on a lot myself. This, like, a lot of pressure that I feel to do certain things at a certain age is pressure that I put on myself. Nobody really put that pressure on myself, but I'm over here blaming this person and that person, society and that, and then realizing, like, my therapist a couple of weeks ago, like, this, like, full on has been, like, it was a mindfuck fully. She was like, close your eyes. What do you feel like? Where are you feeling like pain? Like, what's going on, like, in your body? Like, tap into your body. What's going on? And I was like, I feel a lot of like pressure in my chest. She goes, okay, what is the pressure? Like, describe it to me. And I said, frustration. And she said, okay, where is this frustration coming from? And I was like, I started like listing all these things. Like, I want to buy a house, and I want to have a family, and I want to do this, and like, I have to do this, and I have to make this much money a month, and blah, blah, blah. She goes, who's telling you all those things? Like, where does this come from? And I was like, me. And she goes, but you keep saying it's everybody else. I was like, yeah, I realize like the pressure that I'm feeling is me putting it on myself. It's like other people's problems and stuff and like their issues, and like taking it upon myself to never experience them also puts a lot of pressure on me. And then I feel like I'm not living up to a standard that the only person who set that standard was myself. So that's why I'm frustrated. She goes, bingo. Like, your frustration is not your own. It's like you made this up in your head. And once I knew that and I could release it, it just like made, like, I'm literally still processing that like every day. I'm like, what the fuck? But I think it's huge what you recognize, that, like you said, like, you guys realizing, like, at the end of the day, what matters is your relationship and you guys. And if you're unable to do that, you're still going to be okay. And that's scary. Like you said, it could break up a relationship. It could ruin a friendship or whatever, but realizing, like, this isn't going to make me a better mother or a better wife or a better person in society. Like, my worth isn't depending on me being able to have a child. Like, I'm whole by myself. And that's something that I've been really working on, is I'm a whole damn person on my own. I don't need someone to complete me, or I don't need to have all these like metrics that society says is success. Success to me is being happy and healthy and liking who I am and enjoying the company and the people that I surround myself with. Like, I don't have to have it all together. I don't have to have it figured out. I don't have to be perfect. I'm happy the way that I am. And I think that comes with that empowerment that you talk about. And that is super important to me. Like, obviously having a support system in him also is very empowering. But were you talking to anybody about this, with your twin, with your parents, with friends? Like, did you know other people going through this? Because you share so much about your journey now. Like I said, like, where did you go? How did you find that support outside of him?
Yeah, thanks for asking that. I actually got therapy also that year because I needed just an outside view. And I was talking to my mom about it and my twin sister about this. So I had a really great support system. I'm so lucky to have. And honestly, when I finally got my diagnosis for endometriosis, I made a Instagram account just for endometriosis, and I found a bunch of women who had endometriosis too. And that helped me and helped overcome whatever I was going through mentally, because I felt less alone. And then I found a group of women who were going through IVF who had endometriosis. So I was like, whoa, this is more common than I thought. Right? And when you're in a depressed state, you really feel like you're all alone, like you're literally by yourself. And this is why you're in a depressed state, because you're like, no one gets me. You're stuck in this victim mindset of like, man, universe hates me. What karmic thing did I do to deserve this? Right? Like, you're just stuck in this mindset. But just to have that community, or just to know that other people are going through the same thing as you or similar, it just feels so much better. And being able to talk to a therapist, to be honest, is so good if you have never done so outside of like your friends and family, because getting it from a third person just confirms like your feelings and your mental process, and just seeing it from an outsider and hearing things from an outsider, it's just super helpful too.
Yeah.
And I never thought about therapy, but it is very helpful. And also, I had a life coach at that time too. So that was very, very helpful also, to just have somebody on your side who is a third party person. So I really believe that having a whole team and whatever works for you. And I think trying everything, and if it doesn't work for you, like say you don't like therapy, try something else. Try getting a life coach. If you don't like a life coach, try something else until you can like really feel like, you're actually getting some type of benefits from that. And everybody's different. That's the thing. Everybody's so different. But don't just rely on other people trying to make you feel better. It really comes from within. So it really was a lot of self-love and self-care things that I had to do to really come out of it, like setting boundaries with people, right? Like, this is things that you have to do. And you're already mentioning that, empowering yourself, which is so beautiful. And like trying to find happy and joy in your daily life. And just these little things is what even outsiders or a community of people can never do for you. It has to come from within you to want to do these.
Oh, I was talking about that with one of my best friends. Like, you can't hate yourself, like, especially with your body, for example, like us women, like the stereotypes of like what's in, like what's trendy. Like, you can't hate your body into liking it. Like, you can't hate your body into working out in the gym, and also one day you're gonna wake and be like, okay, it's good enough. Like, it doesn't work that way. You have to like yourself as you are. You can always be wanting to improve and better yourself, but you have to, that's why self-care, I feel like, and self-love has gotten a little bit overused. It's a buzzword. And I want to talk about like what practices and treatments and things that you did, but it starts from within. Like, you have to like yourself. And love yourself to be open to other people loving you. Like, that's why love languages is so important, because you need to know how you want to receive and how you give love, and do that to yourself to then recognize that someone else is trying to do that for you. Because I feel like we manifest and we say, like, I want a partner who does this, this, and this. Then lo and behold, he walks in and he's doing that. And you're like, no, it's fine. And it's like, because like, and this is me. Like, this is literally me. It's like, oh, I don't need a man. I don't like, I can do it all by myself. And then I had someone willing to do that. And I was like, no, it's fine. And of course you push them away. And, you know, and then you're like, woe is me. Like, no one likes me. No one wants me. It's like, no, you have to like yourself first. And once you like yourself and you love yourself despite all of your flaws, you're a lot more open to receiving the love from the people around you. And like, for me, yoga, meditation, affirmations, journaling have been really essential tools for that. What are some of the things that you did? Obviously, like, when you're being pumped up through with medication and all this stuff, like, might be a little bit different, but especially when you were in those like really bad episodes or going through IVF and putting your body through this stress, like, what are some things that you did beyond therapy and a life coach to really give yourself that self-love?
Yes, this is a great question, because honestly, people think that you have to work out hardcore. So I'm a person who loves lifting weights. I actually had to stop lifting weights during this time. Like, through IVF, it just caused so much stress in my body, and I already had high cortisol because I had a stressful job, stressful life right then and there. And just eliminating working out, meaning lifting heavy weights. I was just doing more stretching, yoga, and I went for daily walks. Daily walks is one of the most, I think it was a life-changing thing for me, to be honest, because before then I would go for daily walks, but it wasn't the same. Like, I kept thinking like I had to get my steps in, right? Instead of actually going for daily walks to really re-energize yourself, to be in quiet, to get the sun hitting on you and getting that vitamin C, and to actually find peace and the beauty when you take a walk. Like, just that perception is so different. So you have to shift that mentality. Like, leave your phone, don't listen to podcasts, like, literally just intentionally go for a walk just to kind of like unwind. This is what I did daily. And I think that helped mentally and physically and emotionally too, because when I actually did not take my phone, I felt so much better. I literally went on the same walk maybe months before then, and I had my phone and I was listening to podcasts, etc. But one day I like literally left it at home, and then I saw like how beautiful, like, there were flowers everywhere. I was like, this is the same path I've been like walking for months. Like, this is wild. Like, how did I not see this before? And I was like, wow, the sun's so nice. There's clouds, like, you know, being just outdoors and being intentional with being outdoors was so different. I was like, whoa, I started being happier. Like, it makes you more joyful. And just these little simplistic things in your daily life will really change your life. And this is why I think our society is so, like, they teach us to be so busy, to always be distracted with something, because that quiet and peace is actually where truly your power lies. And so I know that whoever is controlling us, or whoever created the society that we live in now, honestly wanted us to be busy so we don't tap into our true self of being quiet and really getting to know what we truly need and want in life, right? Like, they always, like you said, we get influences from the outside, and then we perceive that as, oh, I'm not good enough because I'm not making this much. I'm not good enough because I'm not a mom. I'm not good enough. You know, you can never always be good enough, but it comes from within. So doing daily walks, like you said, journaling, little simple tasks are the most important things. And honestly, eating healthy for yourself is one of the best things you can do. Not because you want to look physically good. It helps with your mental state. It helps with you just showing up so you can be the best version of yourself. And especially if you have endometriosis, you have to eat. Like, you cannot pump yourself with, like, you know, a lot of processed foods, because your body is already in a flight mode. Like, it's already really working hard to try to get rid of the endometriosis. So you need to eat healthier. And so that's something very basic, but it's a necessity, to be honest.
Like, and I think too, like, if you look good, you feel good. But it's the reverse is true. Like, if you're doing all these things and you feel good, it's going to start physically manifesting. You're going to look more awake. Your skin's going to look brighter. you're going to be happier. Your mood's going to shift. Your mind's going to be lighter. You're going to be more upbeat, and you're going to be more open to, like you said, like, oh, the flowers are pretty. Like, the sun is out, like all this, like, perfect example. Like, I don't live in a walkable area, but I love going for walks with my friends and just walk and talk. Like, our friendship dates, instead of going to drinks, we go for walks. We'll go get food, and we'll go for a walk, and we'll just walk around like random neighborhoods. We pick a neighborhood, and we're just walking and talking, and like, we're getting our steps in physically. We're also emotionally and like mentally, like, we're outside, we're in nature, we're enjoying like the pretty houses, the flowers, but also company. And like, we're not on our phones. And like, I did that. I didn't do a walk today. I'm going to do a walk later, but all morning, I've been really off my phone today. And I normally, like, my goal is to sleep with my phone not in my room by the end of the year. We're not there yet. You should read this book, Simple Abundance. I talk about it all the time. And so I read the passage a day, and then I journal. And I haven't been super great about it lately, but I did this morning. I did it, and I only touched my phone to turn off the alarm. I put it back down for once instead of checking it. I did my simple abundance. I normally would pick up my phone in between that and my journal. I didn't do it. I picked up my journal. I did my journal. I got out of bed. I grabbed my phone, but for some reason, I just didn't feel called to look at it. And I was like, I need to do this more. I need to be more intentional on not touching it. But I picked it up. I took it with me to the bathroom. I grabbed my water. I drank my water, drank my meds, drank my vitamins, went to go make coffee. I still had my phone thinking I was going to put music on. For some reason, I just didn't do it. And it wasn't until I showered, I got dressed. My phone is with me the whole time, but I'm not looking at it. It wasn't until I got in the car that I opened my phone. My dad was driving, so I was able to actually check my text messages. And I was like, I've been awake for an hour and a half by the time I checked my phone. And I was like, this feels so much better than like immediately, like, who texted me? What do I need to, it's like, that could wait. Like, it's not that important. And yeah, like, enjoying, like, oh, it's nice out. It's not that hot. The sun's out. It's pretty. Like, I think going for walks, like with COVID, it became really popular because like there wasn't really anything else to do, but I'm glad that it's still a thing now. And I want to get more intentional about going for walks like that.
I love that. Yeah, I feel like, again, the more simplistic that you can do in your life, it really will bring you joy. And I just want people to focus on the things that make them happy. Like, if you love listening to music, like, put it on all the time and just make yourself happy and joyful. Yeah. And a lot of us don't do things that actually make us happy and joyful. We do things to please others, right? Focus again in your inner self. What makes you truly happy? Even if, who cares if like you love ice cream? Yes, you can have that ice cream. But then most of us will have that ice cream and be like, after, right? I feel fat. I shouldn't have eaten it. No, stop with that negative talk. Like, if you really wanted that ice cream, enjoy it and just look, thank you. Thank you for letting me have that ice cream. You're right, with gratitude. And I think another thing, right, to do is practice gratitude daily. That's one of the easiest things you can do for yourself to raise your vibration in general, to manifest the things you want, and to just have a better outlook in life. It'll literally change your subconscious mind too.
Yeah, that's what I like about Simple Abundance is, so there's the 7 orders of Simple Abundance, and I probably won't get all of them, or in the right order, but harmony, order, grace, gratitude, and simplicity, I think. And there's like another one or 2 more, joy. And she's teaching you how to live a more simple, abundant life. And it starts with gratitude. And I'm in the part of the book, spring cleaning your home, cleaning it of clutter, and just being grateful for the home. Even if it's not your dream home, be grateful for the home that you do have and create it. Make it a place that you want to come home to, even if it's not the dream home. And like, that's like currently where we're at. And it's definitely something that, I live at home right now. This isn't ideal. This isn't forever, but I'm working on making my bedroom my safe space, my home. And, when I walk in there at the end of the day, like, I rarely ever turn on the TV in that room. Like, I want to just sit there and just like turn on my red light lamp, turn off the lights, grab my Kindle, put on a candle, and just like relax. And that's something I'm definitely working on. But I want to focus on, you mentioned like you started IVF pretty much like a month or 2 after endometriosis because you gave your body some rest. Is that recommended like for people who just go through the surgery to remove the endo to do IVF right away, or to wait? Because I feel like that's a little early. Like, isn't it like, or you just were like, no, we're doing this now?
No, the IVF doctor actually recommended me to do it because he's like, your endometriomas grow really fast. So then that's why time was the essence for me. And everybody's different in that sense. But most likely IVF doctors would like you to do it as quick as possible because the outcome of your endometriosis would most likely grow, exponentially. But for me, for sure, he wanted to do it right away because he was like, yeah, I don't want you going through having another endometrioma growing again, and then it's going to block the other eggs, and it's going to be hard for him to retrieve them and get more eggs, etc. So we were able to do it like pretty right away, and he said it didn't affect anything if I was going through recovery in general too. But I was just like, man, it's just so intense. And then my husband was like, dude, that's so intense. You just got a laparoscopy and then you want to do IVF? And I was like, yes, that's what he said. And he's like, okay, fine, whatever you want.
I feel like ultimately I'd probably want to do it back to back too. Just like, I'm already going through this, like, might as well just like do it all together. But because it does continue growing back, how are things now? Like, how old is your daughter now? Like have you had any more flare-ups? I guess, like, what are the risks, or are you like worried about another like flare-up like that, or like doing IVF again, or are you guys able to conceive naturally? Like, what does that look like once you go through it the first time?
Yeah, so it's still unpredictable. So endometriosis, you can't really pinpoint it yet, right? Like, it's still something that you can't, it happens internally. So yeah, the symptoms can come back. So again, the healthcare system makes it seem like once you get pregnant, you're never going to have endometriosis again. That's that's totally a myth. The endometriosis can come back. So I've been trying to do whatever I've done in the past, like eat more holistically, whole foods, less processed foods. And I feel like my symptoms are coming back a little bit, meaning like my periods are getting heavier again and I will get some spotting. So like if I'm already detecting these things, I'm going to go back to like being as holistic as possible so I don't get to the point where I was. And so these are like things that you should be aware of. And thankfully I've already been through it, so I know what I need to do going forward. And yes, you should get your daily checkups still and to do all the things like we said before, because ultimately it doesn't go away. So you have to keep being proactive, empowering yourself all the time. I mean, it can be tiring, but at least, I have the tools that I already learned before. So then I could keep carrying it forward into my life. But it is scary. You never know. And I don't know if I'm going to try again with my husband. I don't know if we're going to try and do it naturally and then go through IVF again. We don't know. I think that's another thing why my husband doesn't want to have a second one, because the first time was just so stressful. And he's like, I don't want to go through that again. So it's probably the same thing, the same journey, but you never know. We don't know.
Yeah. I think, and this goes to what we were talking about earlier, like just kind of letting it happen the way that it's meant to. Like, yeah, like the everything happens to reason. It isn't always like, no one wants to hear that in terms of this or like a cancer diagnosis. But I think what it does teach you is to enjoy every moment that you have right now and just let things happen the way that they happen organically, and trusting the process, that like the lessons that you're being, the trials and tribulations you're being put through right now. Like there's a lesson to come out of that. And, you guys got some really good things out of it. You guys grew closer. You have a daughter now. She's happy and healthy. Like those are the things to celebrate and enjoy right now. I think we get too caught up in like society and like what everyone else does. It's just like taking a moment, like we said, of gratitude for where you're exactly in this moment. What are some things you do? Like you said, like you're starting to, the signs you've been through before. So you're focusing on kind of like eating clean again and like your rituals and things that you've developed over time. Walk me through like basically like a week in your life. Like how do you, with a stressful job, like for those that don't know, you're a paralegal, like you're a wife, you're a mom, you're also very focused on your health and wellness. Like what are some things, like what's your structure like? What's your routine like? So you make sure you're getting enough time in for yourself and for your mind and your body, and also being what you need to be to everyone else, but focusing on yourself as the priority.
Thanks for asking that question. I love this question because it is. But I want people to know that everybody's schedule is different, but you really have to have a good time management, to be honest. And it's helpful that I do have a husband that helps me out, and my mother-in-law comes and helps with my daughter. But my routine is getting at least 8 hours of sleep a day. And I'm lucky in a sense because my daughter does sleep 10 hours straight. So and
oh, that's nice.
Yes, it's so nice. Oh my gosh. So at least getting 8 hours of sleep a day is the minimum. And I'll wake up, I'll get my daughter ready. And when she's ready for her day, like dressed with her diaper change, I will meditate for 10 minutes to like actually start my day with meditation while my husband watches her downstairs, like he's cooking breakfast for her. And then I'll like look at my emails for work, turn on my computer, and then get myself ready for the day. And then I'll come down and have my protein shake every morning. I have the same protein shake. My daughter will drink some with me, but I want to start my day intentionally with nutrient dense foods. Like I'll put spinach in there. I put protein powder to get enough protein in my day, and fruits and like berries and banana in there every single day with spinach.
I love that. I do the same smoothie too.
Love it.
Oh, yum. I want one now.
Yeah, it just makes you feel better, and it makes your days, like you start your day off. I feel like being in that grateful, very, very intentional morning will start your day, like either bad or negative, like, bad or positive. And also, right when I wake up every morning, I do a gratitude practice. I literally say at least 3 to 4 things I'm grateful for. And just when I wake up, I'm like, I'm so thankful to be alive. I'm so thankful for my husband. I'm so thankful for my daughter. And that already sets a very positive day too. So people practice that. And then so it depends. Every day my schedule's a little different with work and taking care of my daughter. Every day though, I'll go to the park with her from like, once I get off of work around 4:30, I'll go to the park with her until dinner time. And that's me and her bonding time. And it's so, like, we love it so much. And then we hang out, have dinner, and then we put her to sleep, and then I'll shower. And then again, I'll do like journaling, and then I will meditate and do a meditation again, and then end it with gratitude. And so that's pretty much the basics that I need to do every day. So it's not super hard, but it's just being intentional of what you want to do for the day to set yourself up to be mentally, physically, emotionally there.
Yeah, I think that's something that I'm working on. I think my word for the year has been intentional for a really long time, and it kept being the word for the last 2-3 years because I wasn't great about it in the past year. So I would like, all right, we're gonna do it again. And I finally feel like I'm being a lot more intentional now. Like if I forget to do it in the morning, at least like before I go to bed, like right when I lay down and I put my eye mask on, the lights are out and I'm laying there, like I say a couple things that I'm grateful for and I pray and I just have like that moment for me. And I try to do both in the morning and at night, but I want to start going for a nightly walk and then doing that in the event that I didn't get a work on during the day. Like today I went to Pilates and I'm gonna be so sore tomorrow, but I still want to go for a walk because I want to enjoy the outdoors. It's a nice day out.
Yeah.
And yeah, practicing gratitude. Yeah. For anyone who is feeling like something is not right, like what are some resources that they could look to start being an advocate for themselves?
So first of all, start Googling your symptoms and then go book an appointment. Go book an appointment with your OBGYN or doctor or whatever it may be. And then start empowering yourself and then start trying to eat better for yourself or work out or whatever it may be to get the help that you need. And then keep doing it until you get the exact answers that you want or really need for yourself. And that's the only thing that you can do is to keep at it and to advocate as much as possible or as long as possible. And everybody's journey is going to be different. So that's how you're first going to get anything done because you're going to have to empower yourself. Go check your insurance, to be honest, too. A lot of us have health insurance and we don't even know what gets covered or what not. Go see what coverage is under your insurance and go find doctors to, and we were talking about this, you have to do a lot of research researching good doctors. Google them, see the reviews, comments that you get before you book that appointment with that doctor. And just don't stick with the doctor just because you're comfortable or lazy to go find a new one. Empower yourself to do it, because it's worth it in the end to get the answers and results that you want and need.
That's definitely, every time we were talking about this, like every time I would need a new doctor for something, like my first step is always going through my insurance. And I remember when there was a period of time where I didn't have insurance because I turned 26 and I aged out, and I was like, insurance is a security. It's insurance. It's a security blanket. Like, it's like, it's better to need it and to have it and not need it than need it and not have it. So I was like, I'm really healthy right now. And like, I'm doing everything right and like everything's good, but like, I don't want to go without it because God forbid something happens, I don't have this. And sure enough, right, like I hadn't been in therapy for a few years. I was taking a break, and then I ended my relationship, and I was like, all right, I'm ready to like start doing this like journey on myself, like back to therapy. And the first thing I did was go to my insurance and look up like providers. And I got really lucky that one of my friends recommended someone, and she was in network. So my first meeting, I actually really liked her, and she's been incredible. But yeah, I had a couple other ones lined up, but I was like, all right, if I don't vibe with her, like I know I'm going to go to other ones. And like going to my doctor, I just did my labs literally last week. I literally still have the bruise.
Oh, I hate that.
Yeah, they had to poke me in both because I like my veins, like, and I was fasting, so I hadn't had water, so then like my veins are like not great. But and like everything came back normal except for vitamin D3, but I know that I'm iron deficient. So, taking my iron every morning and like doing the things that I know are going to make me feel good, working on my sleep. Like sleep is so crucial.
Yeah.
And just like prioritizing you, taking time for you. This has been absolutely incredible. Thank you so much, Kathy, for coming on the podcast. Where can everyone find you?
Yes, so you can find me at my website. My podcast and all my services are there, and you can learn more about me at www.kathymou.com. It's KATHYMOU. And then you can also find me on social. So my TikTok and Facebook is Kathy Mou, and then my Instagram is actually Kathy.Mou. So that's where you can find me.
Okay. Yeah, I'll link it all below. If you had one piece of advice for someone who's like probably my age, like in their mid-20s and looking to empower themselves, what's one thing that they could start doing today?
Honestly, to start empowering yourself, start loving yourself. I know it's hard and it's so cliche, but literally that's the one thing that you can do for yourself now. Loving yourself and, saying positive affirmations or doing whatever it needs that you need to do in order to make yourself happy and joyful. And again, it all comes from within. So if you don't work on yourself and you don't love yourself, you're not going to live the life. You're not going to manifest the life that you want, because it's all literally within you. So that's really it is. Empowering yourself is loving yourself.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you so much. And I'll talk to you guys next week.